What is happening, people? Welcome back to Scarfey Talks Premier League. The content from us continues throughout the summer. While others are sleeping, we keep on delivering. There's a lot to talk about. This episode is going to be reviewing the 25-26 crazy season, which is absolutely crazy. Chelsea finished inside the bottom half. Tottenham in a relegation battle to the final moment of the final day. Trophy drafts ended all round, from Arsenal to Aston Villa. Lots of clubs ending their trophy record. So really, really interesting. Changeover of managers is fascinating. The players that come in January and the summer, fascinating. So a lot to discuss. And of course, do not forget Arsenal's trophy parade after winning the Premier League, but also their defeat to PSG in the final of the Champions League, which in the most brutal and heartbreaking way possible, if you are an Arsenal fan, being by a penalty shootout. But I'm joined by two fantastic guests to talk about all of that in today's episode. I'm joined by an Arsenal fan and a Spurs fan, so very London heavy, if you like. And who would have thought we'd be saying this at the start of the year? But thinking behind this is a cover both ends of the table, and it's a sad state of affairs for Spurs. And absolute credit to Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. But Matt, you're the Arsenal fan. People should know by now, regular on Scarfey Talks Premier League. How are you doing after losing the Champions League final? But you had the trophy parade, which you were there.
Yeah, it's been a sensational weekend. Even with the Champions League final, it was still a great night out. We all enjoyed it. This season has been one to remember for me. And we're going to get into it. But at the start of the season, I didn't have this down as the season I thought it was going to be.
No, absolutely, and I can say that as well for a lot of clubs. To be honest with you, Matt, absolutely. Thank you very much, Jack. How you doing as a Spurs fan? I mean, was the weekend the best moment or one of the best moments of the season, and Tottenham weren't even involved?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's saying that football won. Everyone's saying the refs didn't cave into what Arsenal have been doing. But look, it's that's what the Champions League is completely differently to what the Premier League is. Obviously Champions League definitely has its ups and it definitely has its downs for whatever team you support that are in the Champions League final or in semi-finals, quarterfinals, whatever. But I can echo what Matt said. It definitely was not a season for Spurs that I had noted down this year. I thought it was going to go a lot differently. I didn't think we'd ever be in a relegation battle as we was before the Zerbi came in and thankfully gave us securing to stay us into the Premier League. But again, like I said, we'll definitely get into both sides of the table from champions to relegation battle. But yeah, it's definitely not been a season that I want to remember. But with the amount of times I talk about it, I don't think I can get it out of my head. But like we said, we'll definitely be getting into it at this point, and happy to be here once again, as per usual.
Happy to have you. And you were on my other podcast, Scarfey Spurs, earlier. So thank you very much. Back-to-back podcast. Little dinner slot in between, which is quite nice, I'm sure, as well. I mean, that was for me anyway. I think that you had dinner as well. So, no, Jack, thank you very much for your commitment, particularly towards me and my two podcasts tonight. Matt, if you don't mind, I do want to begin with the Champions League final and start by congratulating PSG on winning the Champions League. They are some team, aren't they, Matt? And what do you make of the Champions League final overall? I mean, I suppose it's really, really heartbreaking, isn't it, to lose a penalty shootout in any moment, particularly being the significance of the occasion with the Champions League being the final. It hurts, doesn't it? Probably, if we're looking back, it probably hurt in the moment. I'd assume a lot more as well.
Yeah. First thing I want to do is congratulate PSG. They are a sensational team. Although they didn't do too much to us on the night, just watching them in the Champions League this season in general, they have been an incredible attacking team. They press so high. They're just so relentless with their attack. And in terms of how the night started off, I actually thought it was a bit cagey for the first 5 minutes, and then we put a nice string of passes together, and then Kai Havertz is in, and then the next thing I know, he's hit it into the roof of the net, and the whole of the Emirates was just bouncing. And I said to myself after that, I think we've scored a bit too early here. I don't like the fact that we've scored too early, because what do we do now? Do we sit back and just let him attack us? Or do we try and go for the second, but then risk getting hit on the counter attack? So I kind of feel like that didn't really help us in terms of what do we do next with the level of attacking talent they have compared to us. But for the first half, I actually felt that we did all right. To be honest, they didn't really do anything. We were very good defensively wise. We kept our shape. Out of possession, we were really good. I thought Saka attacking wise was awful, and hence why he was taken off. But I thought defensively, he kind of showed why he's probably the best defensive winger in terms of his defending stats, probably in Europe, because of the amount of ground that he covers, the tackles that he puts in. He doesn't, tackle too hard. He doesn't get many red cards or anything. And we got to half time, and I was like, okay, keep this going. Keep this going for the next 20, 30 minutes, and then we can make substitutions and see what happens. And then Mosquera gets a yellow card for, I think it was a throw-in he took too long over, but he didn't get a warning, which I thought was a bit odd. But he got that yellow card, and that kind of set a target on our backs in terms of where they were going to attack. Because I actually thought that Mosquera handed Kvaratskhelia pretty well. To be fair, he didn't really do anything to us. But it was when Mosquera got that yellow card, he started to penetrate us essentially. And look, he's an incredible winger, and I thought on the day he didn't really do much. But in terms of this season, I thought Kvaratskhelia has been Player of the Year, and in my opinion, deserves the Ballon d'Or. Depending on who wins the World Cup, of course, because if France win the World Cup, it's probably going to be Dembele. If England win the World Cup, it could be one of Rice or Kane, probably one of those two. But I think in general, it probably should go to Kvaratskhelia, because I think the season that he's had, the trophies that he's won 5 trophies. PSG have won 5 trophies this season. Absolutely
Incredible.
They've clean sweeped it. So I think that personally, it should be a PSG player that wins the Ballon d'Or, regardless of what happens in the World Cup. And in the second half, Mosquera gives away a penalty. And at first, I thought that they might VAR review this, because he got the play, but he got the ball. And in the Champions League, they usually have a think about that. As I believe a similar incident has gone to us this season in the Champions League. But it didn't, and the penalty stood. And to be honest, you can't really argue about that penalty, in my opinion. And then Dembele steps up, who did nothing all game, by the way. Dembele did nothing all game apart from that penalty, but fair play to him because he scored the penalty. And yeah, so it was 1-1, and we were heading into the 80th minute. We made some subs, and Noni was brought on, who I actually thought was pretty decent. There's a lot of stuff that goes about him this season at Arsenal, in that, he's been flop of the season, alongside Victor Gyökeres. But those two players, I actually think, have had a decent, campaign for Arsenal. I think Gyökeres has had a way better campaign than Noni Madueke, but I think that Noni has done what he was brought in for, which was to cover Bukayo Saka. He wasn't brought in to, to become our starting right winger. He's nowhere near Saka for that. But he was tasked to cover Bukayo Saka for fitness, for injuries, for rest. And he's done his job, in my opinion. We won the Premier League, and that's what we set out for. But he got into the box, and he was brought down by Nuno Mendes, I think it was. And in my opinion, I think it's a penalty, because Nuno Mendes isn't trying to play the ball. The ball's nowhere near him. He's behind Noni Madueke. And he basically fall downs on him. So I thought that was a penalty. It didn't get given, which I'm not necessarily, annoyed about. But the fact that I'm annoyed is the fact that it wasn't even looked at by VAR. I thought that the fact they didn't even look at it was a bit just weird, because surely you would, at least have a look at that because it's in a Champions League final. You might have made a mistake. Who knows? But they didn't even look at it, which I thought was really weird. And then it goes into extra time. I didn't think much happened in extra time. They had overall PSG had one clear-cut chance, and that was when Barcola in extra time got through and then hit the side netting. That was their one clear-cut chance I thought that they had. So I thought defending-wise, we actually did pretty well, and that was essentially our game plan. We're not gonna attack them bar for bar because the attacking talent that we have, bar Saka, isn't much. And the attacking talent that they have, I mean, they brought on, I think they brought on Due. They brought on so many attacking players. Barcola, who we want. So they have an abundance of attacking players. And it was clear in terms of it was the best attacking team in Europe versus the best defending team in Europe. And it felt like that. And it kind of felt it was going to go to penalties or extra time because of how the game was. And to be honest, I'm actually not, I'm not angry that we lost. It's more sort of disappointment because we were ahead. There was a genuine belief that we could win the Champions League and that we were going to win the Champions League. But when it's all said and done, I don't think any Arsenal fan will really complain, really. The only thing that we might complain about is players like Odegaard, players like Eze didn't really do much in the game. I don't really have any bad words to say about Gabriel Magalhaes missing that penalty because, he's a centre-back. He took the last penalty. That takes courage. That takes responsibility. He's a leader. He's a leader in our team. He's a leader for his country. So he's probably been one of our best players this season, if not the best player. So I have no, bad words to say about him. And I think it was quite nice that it was revealed later today that briefly after the penalty shootouts, he was the shirt sale holder for this, from last night to now. So I kind of think that was pretty nice to sort of send off this season for him. And we'll be back next season. We will be back next season fighting for that Champions League trophy. I don't have any doubts about that. Whether we get to the Champions League final, who knows? Because anything can happen. But I think we're going to be right up there. And I think we've got a very good chance at retaining the Premier League. But in terms of the parade, it kind of just shows how quick emotions can turn around. And
I was going to ask if you don't mind just chip in, Matt. Did it dampen it ever so slightly? Because to state the obvious, when you lose a Champions League final, especially in that brutal way, and you've got a trophy parade the next day, it's not ideal, is it? As much as it's huge relief, I'm sure, to win the Premier League is massive, particularly because you guys haven't won it in so long. For example, not in my lifetime. So that I assume that's massive. And I suppose it's one of those, isn't it? Tell me if I'm wrong, but the day goes on, all you think about in the end is winning the Premier League. But to start with, do you feel like maybe you're thinking, does it dampen the spirits ever so slightly? Thinking about the night before, which would have been painful.
I thought we were going to play a bit more expansive because we've already won the Premier League, so we've already got that big major trophy hoodoo gone. But I don't know if it dampened the atmosphere. I mean, straight after the game, yeah, fair enough. We had people upset, stuff like that. But in terms of the parade, I don't think anyone gave a damn, to be honest. All we were caring about was, celebrating that we are champions of England at the end of the day. And the turnout was incredible. I knew it was going to be big, didn't think it was going to be that big. And what I mean by that is not the fact that it was over 1 million people there. It was more the fact that there was people on roofs. There was people like parkouring onto like bus stops. It was absolutely manic. And I got quite lucky that Declan Rice threw me a can of beer, which was quite funny. I didn't catch it, but I managed to drink it. But yeah, an unbelievable day, and a day that I'll never forget, and a day that will always be unforgettable for me, because I was
That's good.
there at 9 a.m. and I didn't leave until 5 p.m. So I was on my feet the whole day. I mean, I dumped the call box that I took because we were all just fucking running after the bus. And I was like, I'm not carrying this anymore. F that. I'll pay my mum later about the call box. But yeah, unbelievable day. I mean, it was a shame about the police arrests and the 6 stabbings that that later happened. But in all honesty, I think that was just people, not rival fans potentially, but people that weren't there for the actual parade. That they were just there to just cause shite, basically, because it was quite late after that it was revealed that there was a lot of stabbings. But yeah, unbelievable day.
And you're always going to get in trouble, right? Yeah, and even if it is, your own fans, you're always going to get that. Like I, as a Spurs fan, was at the Spurs Trophy Parade last year. Just like you said, it felt similar in terms of on the roofs, on the bus stop, and one bus stop actually did cave in. All that craziness, but for every, it was a great day. But some of the stuff you saw, you think, I shouldn't have seen that. B, that shouldn't be going on. I think you are always going to get that. And of course, with social media, the bad side is, I've seen it particularly today. You see the very, 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 very small bad side to it. And if you were to go off social media, if I didn't use my brain, you think it was 99.9% trouble at the Arsenal play. But you'll be able to tell us, and I know, I'm not stupid, that it would have been the complete opposite. 99.9% would have been okay, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I actually think that, in general, we were well behaved, and I think that was because there was a lot of police and that no one was going to do shit. But I actually think that we were well behaved, to be honest. And then it was sort of just after the parade, it sort of all kicked off, I think, because people were supporting rival fans and stuff like that. But yeah,
we saw trouble as well, didn't we?
By the way,
in the Champions League final, I mean, it wouldn't be a Champions League final. Without trouble, always seems to be trouble.
By the way, right, just 2 things, right? A, I can't believe rival fans attended a rival parade. That is just, it's not even embarrassing. That's just,
I've enjoyed my fun, Matt, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go.
I know. But what are you trying to achieve necessarily? Like, some of your clubs finished like mid-table in Chelsea. Liverpool, 500 million spent, and they're probably the worst title. Well, they're not even retaining this because they didn't even retain it. But
failed title defenders.
But the worst title defenders.
Shocking.
And I just don't get it. And also, the PSG fans after the Champions League final. I mean, can you imagine it? If Arsenal or if Tottenham or if Chelsea or if any other English club did what they did after they won the Champions League final, torched cars, set fireworks to buildings, like just started fights. I don't get it. I don't get how or why they do that. Like, I genuinely, I'm just astounded that they just set fire to cars.
A lot of arrests
reminds
as well.
me of when
is it a local
Brazilian
thing? Do you think? Is it just PSG?
Well, I don't know because it reminds me of when that Brazilian club got relegated a couple of seasons back, and they just torched cars and everything. But of course they got relegated. But in terms of winning the Champions League final, you've gone back to back. Surely you don't just cause trouble. I mean, it's just mad in France. But I'm just glad that my friends got out there safe and sound, really, because it was absolutely manic in that city.
Absolutely, and there's always problems. I just can't continue to sort it out. Very rarely is there a Champions League final without trouble. I think when Tottenham and Liverpool and then that Champions League final, I wasn't there, but you heard good things about that, and you get the odd one like that. But no, I heard good things from Arsenal's end, but unfortunately not on the other. But Jack, very quickly before we do move on, because there's also news about a manager being sacked before we get to all this. Maybe it started at the end of season reviews. So much to discuss. I mean, as a Spurs fan, I know that you would have enjoyed the weekend. I don't think you would have watched or enjoyed or wanted to see anything about the trophy parade, but instead the Champions League final. How are you feeling after that? I know we spoke about it on the Spurs pod earlier, and you make your thoughts pretty clear. Are you going to back them up in front of that?
Yeah, but I can happily speak about it again. Obviously, again, like everyone else has reiterated, credit to PSG for retaining their their Champions of Europe status. Well, if you're going for UCL Champions of the World status, because Aston Villa are Champions of Europe, and you've got Champions of the Conference of Crystal Palace. And same with those two teams, credit to them as well. Crystal Palace winning their first ever trophy last year, and they've just come back on the bounce and they've won the Conference League. So well done to Brennan Johnson for having 2 trophies in 2 years, one with us and then one with them. Fair play. And same for Jean-Philippe Mateta now making the French squad on the back of that as well. Crystal Palace done a really good thing with Glasner. Whether he stays, who knows? The season hasn't even started yet. Managers are getting sacked. Players are getting bought. Players are getting sold. It's already started, and hopefully I can wait for that. So we're going from the talk from the top of the table down to the bottom of the table of our relegation battle. Again, never had anything like this on the cards. I thought we won the Europa League. We're going to have a quite uplift for the start of the season, bring some new players in. Xavi Simons off of Chelsea, stealing him off of Chelsea's cards. Kudos from West Ham, and making Tel and Danzo permanent. Just to have those other back-ins. And then it just started. It was a nice uplift, and then just started to go horribly wrong with Thomas Frank. Then we got rid of him in February after January transfer. Then we brought in 7 games, 5 losses Igor Tudor, just as a filler. And then now we've sort of solidified, hopefully, Roberto De Zerbi into the squad. And yes, don't get me wrong, I watched the game on Saturday. I was obviously out doing other bits while the full game was on, so I caught the extra time bits. So I caught, well, pretty much the boring bits until the penalty shootout. And me being in a household full of Spurs fans, yes, we celebrated Eze missing. Yes, we celebrated Gabriel missing. But you can't take anything away from the players that are in the final. Did amazing to get to that point. And obviously all credit goes to both teams. It did obviously, and then the parade, yes, didn't watch it because I was actually at Soccer Aid at Championship side West Ham United Stadium, watching that, and your guys decided to jump on the train lines and disrupt me from getting straight to Stratford. So thank you very much for that. Had to go a completely different route, but look, went to a trophy parade last year, so everyone knows what happens at trophy parades. But I don't think anything at our trophy parades happen the way that it's happened at PSG. With, again, like Matt has said, riots, torching cars, fireworks into buildings. I don't even really want to say it's the culture over there, to be honest. But if that's happened pretty much 2 years running, clearly there's something that they do over there for that. Probably not ideal, throwing fireworks into buildings and torching cars. People need them to get to work the next day. But there's not much more I can say on what they do. It's more on what we do. And in terms of the stabbings, that happened yesterday, and all the rival fans turning up. I wouldn't be seen dead at a rival fans trophy parade. Even if I did, I would not be wearing one of these. I'd be wearing.
It's embarrassing, though, isn't it? I'm sorry, that's just embarrassing. I mean,
no,
I'm shameless. I'm sure
right.
having my fun on the socials and that, and yeah, but that's 48 hours and then it stops. You know, it's obsession beyond that point. A and B, going to a trophy parade, you put yourself at risk. You put yourself at risk,
exactly.
and if anything happens to you, I'm sorry, and I'm not saying anything like death or anything like that. But if someone turns around and smacks you one, well, I believe. Probably not meant to say either, but they're well within their rights to do so. I think you're causing problems. You're stirring things.
No, it is.
You're literally just asking for it.
You are.
It's the same. If last year Arsenal's fans started coming to our trophy parade, I would expect Tottenham fans to get them out of the way. Yeah, react in a way where it's like
it's the same inside the
stadium.
stadium, and we've had that issue. Jack, you can back me up on this as Spurs, Spurs on yourself. When I go to games for Spurs season ticket holder, the amount of it's not rival fans, the amount of opposition fans, the team that we're playing in the home end, and I just think, why'd you do that to yourself? Because you always found out in the end. And I just think, and it's happened particularly. We played Chelsea, played West Ham. I mean, why would you put yourself in that situation? Whatever way it's going to happen.
You know what?
Crazy.
Like for me, it's just more odd that it was Chelsea more than Tottenham, because you would
They're weird bumps,
expect
aren't they?
Tottenham more to be there because they're closer in that vicinity. So it's likely that you're probably going to see some Tottenham fans.
I saw a Liverpool fan there, United fan there.
Chelsea,
really...
Liverpool, they're not in North London. I don't get it personally.
Neither do I. I think mainly to add on to that, mainly with the Chelsea fans going to it, is because they have won the Champions League. So I'm guessing they want to go over there to gloat it. I guess I've seen some of their posts on Instagram and X and that saying they should have got a red card for the last post, saying like, "Here comes to our stadium tour, the house of trophies" or something like that.
No,
and
but you expect them
congratulating you lot on pitch. Yeah, exactly. But I don't expect their fans to be going to your trophy.
They should be hiding after the season they've had.
Exactly.
Exactly. Because not being
when
funny.
you top season, we haven't spent $1 billion. Not being funny, they spent $1 billion. And, they don't look that much better, really. If you look at it, 4 more wins and we're above them.
The joke actually isn't on Tottenham at the end of the season. Ironically, it's on Chelsea.
I know. Who would have thought it? I mean, we're a joke, but we ended well at least. 2026 is kind of, the latter stage anyway of the season. But I probably not meant to say it. I'll keep it short. With PSG, I think a lot of it is a rebellion problem. I think it's an extremist problem as well, where we've got to cause trouble. We've got to be on the news. We've got to show us this is our place. It's all of that, I think, kind of thuggery and it's all it. I just think it's wrong. It's the wrong mindset and. Without being integrated properly or whatever it is, they need to learn how to behave. It's as simple as that. And of course, you condemn anything like that. But before we get into the end of season review, Arne Slot then has been sacked by Liverpool. A lot of people had a go at me actually on social media when I said I was shocked by this. And context, yes, is vital. I'm shocked that it come out of nowhere. And what I mean when it come out of nowhere is that we just saw, Arne Slot has been sacked. Well, there's been this conversation: should he go? Should he go? Should he go? You can both back me up on this, Matt and Jack, all year in terms of Arne Slot. But there's never really been Liverpool are set to sack Slot. In fact, quite the opposite. All I've heard, anyway, from several top reporters, including those that broke the story, believe it or not, even Fabrizio Romano is expected to say Liverpool want to keep him, Liverpool want to keep him. We've heard that for quite a while now, on and on and on. So to see him sacked surprised me a bit. So, Matt, your reaction to Arne Slot being sacked and what was a car crash season for Liverpool, but he said he leaves Liverpool in the place that it should be.
Right, just really quickly. I'm sad that he's gone, man. I'm sad that he's gone. He's actually destroyed a title-winning squad. I can't. I'm actually so annoyed that he's gone. And for the cheek for him to say, "I've left Liverpool in a good place or where it belongs" or something, I couldn't stop laughing at that. I'm like, they won a Premier League. You won a Premier League with them, with Klopp's squad. You then spent 500 million to rebuild it in your own squad to then finish, fifth? Did they finish fifth or fourth? I think it was fifth that they finished. Yeah, fifth.
It's embarrassing. It didn't even, not only did they not win the title and defend the title, they weren't even in the race.
I know.
Christmas.
No, sorry. They weren't in the race for the first 2 weeks. You got to remember that. For the first 2 weeks, they were in the race.
That is shocking. I mean, we might have been in the race longer. Goodness me. Shocking.
But Liverpool are, it looks like it's going to be Areola. If I'm honest.
What, the goalkeeper?
Areola, the Bournemouth manager. But if I'm honest, I think this is a move. This is a reactive move rather than a proactive move. They should have done this weeks ago, spoke to Areola weeks ago, so that they knew the plan that they were going with and that they had a plan set in motion. Because Salah, you're going to need a long-term replacement for him. You're going to need a long-term replacement for Van Dijk. You need a long-term replacement for your goalkeeper. They are. I don't know what they're going to do, but they need to spend a lot more money, and I don't know if they're going to be able to have that kind of money not from a money point of view, but from an FFP point of view, because the fact that they spent 500 million, didn't win the Premier League, didn't really go far in the Champions League, and didn't win any of the cups, that puts their revenue, well, not revenue, but that puts them in potential breach of UEFA, potentially. And I think if they really could have dealt with either winning the Premier League or being sixth and not being in the Champions League, or not being in Europe at all because of the UEFA financial rules that they need to apply in that. Because I believe they're a lot more stricter than the Premier League ones. But Liverpool have had a disastrous season. They were getting pumped 3-4-0, in consecutive game weeks for the 2 or 3 weeks straight, and it was just funny to watch. When they signed Isak, I was like, okay, great signing, but you've already signed Ekitike. So where's the budget spent on your defense where you're going to need it? Because Konate is going to leave you at the end of the season or go to Real Madrid. And Van Dijk is getting old. And you need a DM. You need a 6. They still don't have a number 6. McAllister isn't a number 6. He's a number 8. So Bosley is a number 10. They've got Gravenberch, who is a hybrid 6 and an 8. But they don't have an out-and-out number 6 for 2 seasons now. So that has to be on their priority agenda for this summer. And if they don't get that, I don't know where they're going to be. But they've had a disastrous season. The PR that they put out is frankly embarrassing from Slot's point of view. The interviews that Slot has given throughout the season, him complaining about set pieces being scored against him, about long shots being scored against him. He complains about bloody everything. He reminds me of that manager. I can't remember his name.
Arteta?
No, I can't remember that name. He just complained about everything. And I mean,
Klopp wasn't far off.
No, I don't think it was Klopp. I don't think it was an English manager or a Premier League manager. That's it. It was that. It was the manager we played in the Champions League. It was either the Sporting manager or the
Ruben Amorim
manager or something. But he complained about everything, and he sort of reminds me of that manager. And to be fair, not far off Liam Rosenior in that they're both sort of memes for this season. I mean, Rosenior with huddling around the bloody semicircle, and you can't go in my half to do goalkeeper warm-ups, and I'm like, everyone does this. It's not new. But yeah, he's had a lot of meme-worthy material, let's just say that. Yeah. I don't know how Areola's going to do, to be honest. I think what they should have done is, I don't think they should have gone for Areola. I think they actually should have gone with Enzo Maresca. I'm not going to lie. I think Enzo Maresca would have done brilliantly with Liverpool and would have been a far better option than Areola because Enzo Maresca has managed a big club now. He's managed Chelsea for 2 seasons or one. I think it was 2 seasons he's now managed them for. So I thought that he would have been their best choice, but I think he was probably set on Man City. To be honest, Liverpool are a bit of a car crash. They spent far too much this season, and I don't think they're going to have the same outlay for this summer, personally.
Okay, interesting. Matt, thank you very, very much. Jack, briefly before we do get into all the end of the season review stuff, finally, Arne Slot then, what do you make of this? I mean, has he been sacked purely so Areola comes in? I mean, it seems to make sense. I think the appointment's perfect, but Matt makes a good point about Maresca and even about Slot should have gone earlier. What do you
think? Well, like Matt has definitely said, he did come into a Jurgen Klopp leaving side, and obviously we knew that team could do a lot of good things, and then he won the title in the end. The only thing with some of his signings, a majority of them have flopped completely. Probably bar Ekatike, in all fairness. Isaac had an injury, came back, got his leg broken, had a bigger injury, sort of worked his way back in. I think the only reason why he's at Liverpool is because he threw his toys out the pram with Newcastle, begging and begging and begging to be let go. And it's obviously not done Newcastle over because Voltemade hasn't really filled in those boots that Isaac has left behind. But I could probably say they definitely could have needed him, but I don't think they really need him at the same time. Ekatike has probably been one of their most outstanding players, probably bar Szoboszlai having a pretty good season as well. Florian Wirtz, dare I say, had a stinker in his first season. I can, because we went so many games without doing anything, whether it was a goal or an assist. Frimpong, can't really say much. He's been quite good defensively, quite good with running up and down the pitch. He's created a couple of chances. Kirkes, I think he had a little bit of a flop as well, but sort of gained his form afterwards. And I think them sacking Slot now has definitely put Iriola into the hot seat. So I don't think the goalkeeper Ariola could do a decent job. But then it goes to again with Pep leaving as well. Liverpool could have easily had Maresca. I think if they sacked on Slot a little bit earlier, I think they could have had Xabi Alonso. Obviously being an ex-Liverpool player, but now you've got Xabi Alonso going to Chelsea. Have fun rebuilding that kerfuffle on your own. And if he does, credit to him, but I don't think he'll be able to do it in one season. He's going to need a long old think after not getting any European spots on the final day. I think Iriola might be able to possibly fix some ways. He can probably bring what he's learned from Bournemouth and how he's brought them up into the top of the table and definitely help out Liverpool in some ways. He might even go on to say he's going to raid some of the players at his old club. That you never really know, to be fair, because they have got obviously some fair good players. But I think I spoke to a Liverpool fan yesterday at the Soccer Aid game, and he was quite pleased that Slot had been sacked. I think after last season, I think he sort of slowly lost the dressing room in a sense. Not a lot. There wasn't much going on, but they've still got Champions League out of it. But clearly, it wasn't good enough for the Liverpool board, and he ended up being sacked. It's the same everywhere you go. If it's not the board's preference, you're not going to be in your job for very long. Ange Postecoglou, for example, Thomas Frank, for example, Maresca, for example. I think obviously they won the Conference League, and then Maresca went on to win the Club World Cup, and then he got sacked. But there was obviously the league positions and stuff in there had to play part in it, and then I think we all loved the meme with Liam Rossigna, the massive meme. He had no managerial experience whatsoever, realistically, and he got thrown into that Chelsea side and just made it a massive big kerfuffle.
And the fact he started so well, and people were like, what an appointment, what a guy, he's such a good manager, the players love him, he's one of them, all this that we got thrown out and it's all come falling
There's
down.
only one question.
Quickly.
Yeah, he had a 6 year. The only question I can ask about Liam Rossigna
what's he done in his career?
Top manager where?
They said he done a good job at Strasbourg. He didn't even do a good job.
And they said that he was going to be the future of their club, and I'm like, he's barely going to last 6 months. That was right. He barely lasted 6 months.
He's in the future bargain bin, mate. Is more than anything in the future. I'm not being funny. But no, that meme was a nice little tip off for the season. But yeah, and then the under-21s manager probably had an also worse stint as Igor Tudor, but we won't get into that. We won't get into that guy. But it'll be exciting to see what Xabi Alonso can do. He actually has decent managerial experience at Real Madrid as opposed to Strasbourg.
What's an appointment, by the way?
It's a great appointment for them, but he could have easily gone to Liverpool, very easily gone to Liverpool. I don't even think Liverpool were even chatting to him about getting him into.
I just thought he would. I had in my head that he would in the summer or next summer. It felt inevitable.
You'd think that from an ex-Liverpool player. It's like Arteta. He played for Arsenal and now he's manager of Arsenal. you've had loads of like Ryan Mason's done it for Tottenham. Like you've had so many people that have played for the teams. Like Xavi's done it for Barcelona. The other Xavi, not Xavi Alonso, the other one. You've had him do it for Barcelona. Zidane for Real Madrid. You've had all these players that have done their badges and everything and managed the teams they used to play at. And some of them work, some of them don't. And obviously, you'd think that Xabi Alonso would go down the same way. I think he wants a different challenge. He had Ancelotti's team at Real Madrid, very, very attacking and very, very good side. And I think he just saw it as, I don't really want to have half Klopp, half Slot side to have to play around with and try and figure out and try and make it in his own image. He now wants to make the team that he's now at completely into his own image, which is why he's gone to Chelsea. But again, it's a great appointment. It's going to be a year of managers going here, there, and everywhere. It's going to be a year of players going here, there, everywhere, and it'd be good to see what happens in the next coming weeks with transfers and everything else like that, especially with the rumours that are going around a lot recently.
Yes, absolutely. It should be interesting. Let's get into the end of season review then, because we spent 40 minutes talking about Slot and Arsenal parade in the Champions League final. The three key things, though.
I just love the bald head, you know.
Do you know what the best moment was as well? Arne Slot's tenure, and this will make me laugh, is Igor Tudor mistaking someone who worked for Spurs. He worked for Spurs. He was mistaking him for Arne Slot. He was in the it's like someone that you've known. I know you haven't only known for a few weeks, but he's in your dressing room and you mistake him for Slot. Oh, honestly, that moment.
He was the only person that didn't beat Igor Tudor, I believe. I think everyone beat Igor Tudor.
Yeah, because we drew 1-1, didn't we?
Yeah.
For Liverpool, yeah.
God knows how. And we actually played
okay
the reason
as well. Why you're still up.
No wonder he got sacked then. Couldn't even beat Igor Tudor 5 losing games, man.
We love you, Arne. We love you, Arne, for that moment. But he will mention, to his credit, won that Premier League title with Liverpool, whether it was Klopp's team or not. Of course, I don't think he done all the work behind it, but he won that title. But I wouldn't say he's left Liverpool in the best of places, but we agree to disagree, I guess, with some Liverpool fans that will defend him. Not many, I'm sure. But end of season review, we're going to start at the bottom of the table. We'll start with Wolves. Going to give you all one club each. So Jack, I come back to you for Wolves. Miserable season for them. Rock bottom, ending under Rob Edwards. I mean, he's done an okay job, and okay. There's a couple of big results in there. Done okay, didn't he, against Arsenal? Done okay. A couple of these games, City United was okay for them. It certainly looked a lot better, but the damage was done early, wasn't it, for Wolves? But at least, for a positive, Jack, just to add in there, they didn't beat Derby's record, and in fact, it was nowhere near it in the end.
No, they weren't anywhere near Derby's record in the end, especially when they got their first win after about 6 games against the other relegated side, West Ham, winning 3-0 against them. Look, they had 7 games losing streak. And
20 points in total, minus 41 goal difference, and they went down by 21 points. Oh my God.
That is
not just about.
That is almost Derby. That is almost Derby stats. Very, very close to Derby stats. But obviously they got, I think, a couple points more than what they did. I'm guessing. I think so. I can't remember what it was, the Derby stats. But that's all in the past. This is now. I think the first 7 games you just sort of saw Wolves crumbling, and I think they had their team from last year completely ransacked. Like, they lost Mateus Cunha to Man United. They lost a load.
Ryan Nori, Man City.
And Nori to Man City, and it's obviously Pedro Neto not long ago go to Chelsea before
Larson,
then. So that started Strand Larson to Crystal Palace, and look what he's done. He's gone and won the Conference League, mate. He's on the up and up. He's a very good striker, and I think he could have easily gotten into a lot of other Premier League sides, but he chose Crystal Palace because they were doing quite well in the Conference League.
He probably promised that Mateta will be sold and he'd get all the minutes, but for him, he's got half the amount of minutes he would hope for. So maybe he does a strop and walks out.
Yeah, Mateta was linked away in the January, and
Failed his medical, apparently.
he failed his medical and it didn't go through, so he stayed at Crystal Palace. So they've now got to try and battle out who's
What
going
a
to be
correct move that
their
was.
player.
He won the
Yeah,
Conference
yeah.
League, and he
Yeah,
stayed up.
exactly. Yeah, they stayed up. They were in the conference. They won the Conference League, and he's now in the French squad because of what he's done this season. So fair play to him for failing his medical, and also fair play for Strand Larsen for also getting that little bit of goodness as well. But away from Crystal Palace, back to Wolves. Yeah, they had a very bad stint until they beat West Ham. A lot of teams beat West Ham this season. They
That's
obviously
true.
they then drew to Everton, and then they got a first decent win as a 6-1 win against Shrewsbury. Bear in mind, and then it went back to reality with another draw, another 3 losses, another draw. Then they beat
It's
Grimsby.
better though,
And they
isn't
had
it? To the first stage of
yeah,
the
they
season,
sort
there's
of
draws in
yeah
there. They're
they sort
okay.
of started to pick up a little bit. And then again, right at the end of the season, when they were just starting to sort of pick up some sort of momentum, it went downhill. And then when they lost to I think it was either West Ham or it was Leeds, then obviously it was announced that they were just going to get relegated anyway. But look, it's a bad season for them, especially when they've had a load of good seasons in the Premier League. But I think this is probably another one of those times where they've got to now regroup, reset, probably bring a couple of different players in. Bear in mind, there's not a lot of players to choose from now that would want to go to Wolves after them being relegated, but they can get some. They definitely can get some players from lower sides
Can
and
they
sort of
bounce back
build up their
up?
confidence.
Just don't get in that trap, do
I,
you?
do, I
Stuck.
don't think it. I don't want to get trapped in me saying they definitely can bounce back and it's not going to happen. I'm going to say probably not in the first season. So
Right.
I'm lowering my expectations for them. And if they do come back, then obviously clearly I was wrong. I don't want to say they are going to come back and they don't, and can be wrong on that side. I want to smack the bar low, and then they can aim above that. And if they do come back in, then fair game to them, completely fair game to them.
Well,
But
put it this way: we won't need to watch Wolves in the Championship because we can rely on Southampton to spy on them for us. So we won't need to worry
exactly.
about that.
Thank you for just where's my
I can't
tree?
believe
Where's my
it.
tree?
I,
Yeah.
I can't believe that's been a thing.
And then, not only that, but they lose every single game that they've spied on. I mean, it's just what's he filming himself or what's going on there? And then Southampton's statement today is interesting. They said on the panel there was 2 connections to Middlesbrough. They're playing the victim in the statement. Yeah, so go check that out about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. They do take responsibility, but there's one really weird paragraph, by the way. And I know they're in the Premier League, so I don't talk about them too long, but there's one where they say this is a disgrace, but I suppose us, the club, we shouldn't have ourselves been in that situation. So everything they said, they just kind of backtracked. It was really, really weird. It should never have been allowed, if you ask me, that statement to go out. I'd recommend you read it. It's an interesting, very long, very weird as well. Some of it's in bold and capital letters at the start, and it's kind of gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Very weird. I don't think it's been checked in any way, shape, or form. But I'll just quickly say of Rob Edwards as well, and I like the guy, and I think he's done an okay job. And at one point I was saying I think he's done a good job, decent job. But I think he serves you right when you jump ship from a club mid-season, doing okay, doing well, in fact, with Middlesbrough. You jump ship. I think you get what you deserve, really. You jump to the Premier League, let's be honest, for the money and whatever it may be down to. If he loves balls, as he claims to do, I think you deserve that. You just jump ship out of Middlesbrough, leave them in a bad place, scrambling for a manager. I mean, they've done okay for the rest of the season for all he knew, but I think he serves him right, really, and go back to the Championship. Would have served him even more right if Middlesbrough come up. But Matt, Burnley, I don't think that they have got the criticism they deserve. And I'm sorry to any Burnley fans listening. I have no problem with supporters, but only 2 more points than Wolves and only a 4 better goal difference. And then again, they're going down by a significant margin of about 18 points. That is significant. And they're often painted as, they're more competitive this year, Burnley. Well, it's quite an embarrassing season, isn't it? Really, in the end.
I actually think that Wolves have had a better season than Burnley.
Haven't they, really?
Just
Better
in general,
2026.
because all you hear about is Wolves. You never hear anything about Burnley because
Weird.
no one cares. No one cares about Burnley.
They're irrelevant, aren't they? They yo-yo up, down, up,
Yes,
down, up,
yeah,
down.
exactly.
That's
And
why they signed Kyle Walker. If you ask me, they signed Kyle Walker to stay relevant.
Yeah.
They're bringing the manager, Michael Jackson, I think, to stay relevant. And that might sound stupid, but seriously, I think they do that though. They're that irrelevant, and I don't want to be horrible, but they are irrelevant. So to stay relevant, they bring in names to traction, because look at their followers have gone up. They brought in Michael Jackson. They gained 1 million, no joke, 1 million followers across all their platforms combined. That's more than Burnley ever had in the first place.
I think it's just crazy. I think this season that they've had, I mean, I just can't see any positives from them, because actually I can. One positive, Jaden Anthony. He's a solid player for a mid-table club. I think he could probably get a good move. And if he stays with Burnley in the Championship, I think he could probably get them back up to the Premier League. So I think he's a quality player. I think he's a Premier League player. But aside from that, I don't think they've got any other Premier League players. And in terms of like some stats, right, they've conceded 75 goals. That's the most of any team in the Premier League this season. And they didn't finish dead last. Wolves did, and Wolves had less. 75, and they had only 38 goals. But like, yeah, I think it's a shocking season for Burnley. I think they need to. I think they need to appoint a manager and stick with it. With teams like West Ham, with teams like Wolves, even Wolves, they stick with their managers. And even if you get relegated, I feel like you have to stick with a manager. But because they just yo-yo with managers as well, I don't think that helps, because the player relationship with staff just isn't there. And I actually think that that's a really underrated like thing to have in a football club, is players, staff that have known each other for years. Because it's all just swapping and changing, and I think that that's a major part of why teams go down, to be honest.
Interesting stuff. Thank you. Joe, it's interesting you mentioned that. I think both teams have gone down have got 1 or 2 players that are okay. And to be fair, Anthony of Burnley, I'm glad you said that. I agree, but Mane of Wolves, Mateus Mane, I really like, and I would quite like to see him at top.
João Gomez as well.
Yeah, great shout. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I was going to go down that whole Gomez and Bueno route and all that, but they've got so many players with the same name that I end up identifying the wrong player. I mean, imagine a club trying to sign them. Gomez, no, that one. No, get the Gomez. Yeah, just absolute mess, really. Matt, sticking with you though, West Ham United, who were ultimately relegated in the end. I mean, it's catastrophic, isn't it? Well, for Londoners, but I was thinking actually about West Ham and for their supporters. I mean, it's only going to increase the pressure on the likes of David Sullivan, the ownership. I mean, did Karen Brady do a sensible thing and step down before she maybe felt the inevitable would happen, going down?
I think with West Ham, I think a lot of it comes down to their ownership. I think that they've messed this season up for the football club. They didn't invest well in the summer. They haven't sorted out this stadium issue that their fans, that a large percentage of their fans have raised concerns about. And I just think the board as well is a bit of a mess, because people are leaving. They're not. They haven't really replaced them until now. You know, they're now looking for replacements. But like, Karen Brady stepped down mid-season, I think it was, and they were not looking for a replacement, which I thought was really odd. Because had they got that replacement in, they might have had that bit more stability that might have kept them up. Who knows? But in terms of the players that they've got, I think that a lot of their the squad have let them down as well. Because if you look at their players, they're Jared Bowen, Matthias Fernandez, that Diouf player, that
Very good.
Mavropanos, Wan-Bissaka. They've got a lot of players that are really good Premier League players. That teams like, even Aston Villa, who finished fourth, would probably take. Chelsea would take. And I just think that they are going to need a lot of sales. And there are reports about they're wanting £80 million for Matthias Fernandes. Well, I'm sorry. No disrespect, West Ham and West Ham fans. But
Good player, but not 80 million.
You're in no position to be making demands when you have been relegated. If anyone offers you 30, 40 million, you take that. You take that because you're probably not getting any more unless there's a bidding war. And even if there's a bidding war, no one's going to bid over 50 million because you've just been relegated. You need to sell players. So I actually think that West Ham, in terms of their sales, I actually think it's going to be drawn out for weeks upon weeks because teams are just going to try and force them to sell.
The World Cup is not ideal for them, though, is it?
No, it's not ideal. And I think that the teams are going to force them to sell at the buying club's price rather than the selling club's price.
Absolutely.
But will West Ham go back up? I think it depends who replaces the players that they get rid of. But I would say 60% of their players they'll probably keep because I don't think many Premier League clubs are attracted to those players.
Can they keep Bowen? That's the big question for West Ham fans.
No.
Fernandes, they probably love. He's really good. Juve's really good. But Bowen's the one, isn't he, that will really, really hurt if he goes.
I don't think they're going to keep Jarrod Bowen. From what he said in interviews.
Is he the Salah replacement, the short-term Salah replacement?
I don't think so. But I think from what he said in his interviews in the last few weeks of the season to the statement that he released, that was 100% written and posted by him. That was not a social media agent account, like post up. That was from him. It sounds like he wants to leave for the betterment of his career rather than him staying because he's West Ham through and through. He wants to go and fulfill his footballing career. He's not as privileged as the likes of Bukayo Saka, and other academy players that came from the London academies. He was in non-league, the lower tier leagues, so he's brought himself up. He's not had that financial support from top tier academies. So I kind of feel that he will want to try and get as high as he can in the footballing, well, not footballing pyramid, but the footballing level. Because I think Jarrod Bowen is a Champions League level player, and that he could play for a Champions League club. Maybe not start, but he could at least be a squad player for them. So I think a lot of their players are going to leave. I think Matthias Fernandes will 1,000% leave. He is not staying. He's not staying because he's such an attractive proposition.
It's the value they can get for him.
Yeah,
but Matt,
exactly.
Can I just sneak in if you don't mind? I thought they had an okay January window. In fact, I thought they had a good in the moment. They saved their January window, I felt, come the end, but not enough to keep them up. Any regrets in that window?
Who did they buy in January? Who was it they brought in January?
Castellanos, and they bought a couple of players. Pablo.
To be honest,
yeah.
Those two.
Two strikers, for example. I thought that they had a good window and really good.
They had the right intention.
I know the board and owners were a problem, but I think
okay. So in their January window, I think they had the right intention, but I think it was just too little, too late. In that, I think they needed to go heavy last summer, but also do that January window on top. So I feel that January window kind of masks their summer window, in a way. So yeah, they had a good January window, but I don't think it was enough personally.
No, fair enough. And it's for West Ham, if you're a West Ham fan, it's a shame for you because there are some good players in there. Bowen, like you said, Juve, Fernandes, even Mavropanos really showing himself. But I think from goalkeeping problems to a lack of midfield balance away from Fernandes to lack of striker options, as Matt said, really, those strikers should have come in the summer, at least one of them anyways. They got that completely wrong. I mean, Juve isn't a left back. He's been forced in that position because there's no balance elsewhere. But Matt, thank
What
you.
I am really interested in with West Ham is what do they do with
Yeah.
their stadium when they're in the Championship? Because
What can they do?
how are they gonna? Well, how are they going to afford to run that when it's a bigger capacity stadium than the likes of the Emirates, than the likes of the Etihad? And
It helps they rent it. They don't own it. That will help.
that is true, but I kind of think that is a lot of the concern from the West Ham fans is that they don't actually own a stadium fully. But yeah,
Nor do City really. I don't think City do either.
I don't know.
Etihad. They might have done
I
recently, but they
don't
certainly
know.
didn't for 10 years. They didn't.
I don't know because
they've had a similar deal.
they're upgrading it and stuff like that. So I'm not sure about that.
I think they might have took ownership of it in the last 3-4
Recently,
years.
yeah,
But,
potentially.
yeah, but
Fair
at
enough.
West Ham they just can't really do that. And you're right, there's limitations with that. But if Tottenham went down, you're right. I think to ask that question, it'd be like, oh my god, what the hell are you going to do with that stadium? Because the debt is huge. We paid it off like we're going to pay it off, should say, the next 70, 75 years. That's the way that Levy's done it. That you just can't afford to pay that, even though it's in little amounts. You can't afford to pay that. But with renting it, West Ham do it a little bit clever, less control, but less expense. But Jack, can I ask you about Tottenham to work our way up?
We are
Tottenham
going on to Tottenham, but just really quickly, Fabrizio has just reposted his Savinio Tottenham post from May the 26th. He's just reposted that, so potentially something is happening.
I hope we avoid him, to be honest. But
you don't want to
go down the whole route. No, I don't know.
Okay,
can't hit a barn door with a banjo. I think you could give him an open goal and he wouldn't be able to score. But that's just my opinion. I wanted him previously, so again, who am I to say? I wanted him at the time, but I'm a believer in if he didn't work first time, I'm not a big superstitious person or anything like that, but I just think move on. It didn't work. Move on to somebody else. It didn't work. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Some would say. I just say it didn't happen, and there'll be multiple reasons why. And it's funny how his price has been cut in half from when we last talked to him. That just says a lot about the season that he's had. But Jack, we'll get to all of this in future episodes. I do promise. The transfer window doesn't even open for another nearly a month. By the way, it opens like the 19th of June. So all these transfer discussions are interesting. Nothing should be announced yet. But Tottenham, I mean, embarrassing season, but I suppose a sense of relief at the end.
Yeah. Well, it came as late could come. Look, start of the season, we was on I would like to think we was on a very nice high after winning a European trophy. Then the whole parade, you got Ange. Season 3 is better than season 2. I think everyone thought that about Squid Game, but it just didn't really turn out as well. So was I. I was staring at him. Yeah, exactly. Everyone forgot that he said these things because everyone was so hell-bent on, I win things in my second season, mate. That's his highlight of his 2 seasons with us. And then he shouts season 3 is better than season 2. And then
Shame on the club, though,
then you get this massive announcement saying, yes, he won the Europa League and we give him credit. But finishing 17th in the league is not where we should be. And this is why we have parted ways. Don't tell him not to say these things before you then judge him on his performance. Obviously, you can't exactly say to him before the parade, look, you are going to get sacked because of where you was, but go and enjoy the parade first. They've obviously not said anything. He's then outspoken completely, saying what he had said, and then the board have sacked him. Then we bring in Thomas Frank, thinking that he was going to bring some of his mentality that he brought to Brentford over to us. Started off all right in Premier League games, Champions League games. And then it just started to slowly decline because he was...
Was that the problem, though, Jack? Was it he just kept that Brentford mentality and just simply wasn't right for a top 6 club?
he kept the Brentford mentality of this is not a side that goes and win these sort of games. So just play how you normally play. If we get a result, amazing. If we don't, then it's okay. We can rebuild. But yeah, that is pretty much the Brentford mentality. If you look at it from all the other times, you wouldn't be comparing Brentford to Tottenham, but this season you can, because Brentford have been 10 times better than us because we've been down here and they've been up here. Like, they finished ninth place they finished, and we're finishing 17th. Clearly, we should have hired Brentford's now manager because he's been doing so well since Thomas Frank has gone. Bear in mind, they have had a couple of their fair shares of ups and downs, but he did much better than Thomas Frank did in the games that he's been there. I've been telling you that. And then we decided to sack him in February after the January transfer window. Bringing in Colin Gallagher, bringing in Suso, and obviously trying to bring in some other players, but we just couldn't get him over the line. And then we decided to bring in Igor Tudor, who in their right mind thought that this gap filler of a manager could even set foot into our stadium and try and fix the situation that we were in by January. And we've obviously joked about it. We've already joked about it, how he thought that one of the people that worked for us was Arnie Slot, and you think that he'd easily be able to know that. It was clear from when they said that we was going to bring him in as an interim manager that he was definitely completely not the fit. And then after 5 losses, we decided to say, all right, you can go. Thanks for trying your best. Find somewhere else where you can fill. And then now we brought in De Zerbi, and we've completely kept ourselves in the Premier League. Thank God. Because I think if we got relegated again, it'd be a massive debt on our hands. And with West Ham Stadium, it'll be down to not only some of teams in the Premier League to help pay with that, but also the taxpayers to help pay their rent as well. So it's not this. We're just going to see what happens with their stadium. But that I'm happy that we've managed to land De Zerbi. I think he's going to be a very good fit. I just want people on the board, such as Vinay and Lange, to actually pull their finger out and actually do the words that they are saying in back in De Zerbi this time, and them saying that they're still learning and they haven't really been thinking about the football side. Why are you in football then if you haven't really been thinking about the football side for the past however long you've been here? Again, there's a reason why Lange was sacked from Aston Villa. He wasn't doing very well, and then we decided to bring him in, and he's doing the exact same thing. There is a saying that you can polish a turd, it's still a turd, but it's just I don't know exactly who's going to go first. If it's going to be Lange or it's going to be Vinay. Personally, I'd rather Lange as the footballing side. But if we're not going to sack either of them, bring in someone that can actually teach him how to do the job that he's actually paid to do. But look, again, I'll reiterate, happy with De Zerbi. Can't wait to see what happens with this one. And I wish Tottenham a much better season than last year. And don't make me be in that position ever again, for the love of all that's holy, is all I can say.
You're on mute.
You're still on mute, mate.
Me?
Yeah, you were, yeah.
You can't hear me. You can hear
You
me
can
now?
now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, we can now hear you.
Mine said it wasn't on mute. Oh, I don't know. Bit of a delay. Oh, there you go. Weird. Right, Jack, I was going to stick with you and say Nottingham Forest. Well, sorry, but I'd argue if you have 4 managers in a season, you deserve to go down. But fair play to them for staying up in the end. And do you know what? They've gone through so many managers that I think we'll forget that they had, particularly Ange Postecoglou and Sean Dyche on top of course, their start to the season. It's just absolutely great. I mean, Nuno. At the start. I mean, what?
Nuno and Postecoglou, Sean Dyche. Yeah, Victor Piero has done again. He has done something to bring up these players, and yeah, definitely a fair play to him. They were 3 points, stayed 3 points above us, but they managed to secure their spot in the Premier League way before we even secured our spot, because we came down to the final day. They had a load more games to stay up, to obviously be told that they're staying up, which was amazing for them. But look, at this moment in time, they've got a really good side. They've got a load of really good players, and I think now they definitely needs to be some sort of rebuild in certain areas. But look, Victor Piera, again, I think he's a good fit for the Nottingham Forest and the way that they want to play. Just hopefully that the board of directors there can also back him to be able to get some more players in. They might even raid some of the newly relegated teams, possibly for some of their players. I'm not sure. I think that any team could realistically do that, to be fair, because again, those 3 teams that have now gone down still have Premier League players in there that still want to be in the Premier League. It's just whether or not anyone wants to buy them for a demanding price of 80 mil. Mind blown that they think they can make demands after being relegated. But yeah, fair play to Nottingham Forest for starting from the bottom and getting to where they were now. And I think under their manager, I think they're going to be another dangerous side this season. So don't be shy if you think you're seeing them at the top 10 of the table next year, possibly. And he's still on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me again?
Weird. Yeah, you can now.
Don't get why it does that. It's big delay. Weird. Take off earlier. Crystal Palace. So, Matt, I come to you. Well, not in their usual 12th place, further down, but interestingly, only 4 points off their favourite 12th. But that's not what matters here, is it, Matt? What matters here is that Glasner has won, some would say, a 3rd trophy. Whether you count as major or not, the factual thing is it is 3 trophies, whatever you class, as Community Shield, etc., etc. 3 trophies, end on a high to win the Conference League. I mean, for them to be playing in the Europa League next year, because, of course, winning the Conference League guarantees you to play in the Europa League, for those who are wondering. I mean, they deserve it, don't they? After what happened at the start of the season, or some would say the end of the last, with the whole Nottingham Forest and Palace saga, it's quite fitted, isn't it, that Forest no Europe and Palace Europa League. Justice served?
I'm actually quite happy for Palace and for Glasner, because I think that this season has been a torrid season in terms of the players they've had to get rid of. Mark Gahey, they've had to get rid of him. He was apparently going to go to Liverpool, but he went to Manchester City. They're probably going to lose Adam Wharton. They maybe might lose Mateta. And I just think that, they lost Eza last summer. And I just think that they actually deserve this. They actually deserve to have European football, in the Europa League, to go one step up, to see what they can do. Because I think in the Conference League, they've been brilliant. They absolutely smashed that competition, in my opinion. Remains to be seen what they do in the Europa League and what manager they get, really. But I think that they'll look back on this season. They're still in the Premier League. They've got European football. They've won a trophy. And they saw Eze win the Premier League at their ground. So I think that they'll be pretty happy with their season, to be honest. Apart from maybe losing Mark Gahey, because he was an incredible player for them, still was an incredible player for Man City. But I think him leaving definitely opened the floodgates of their defense, a lot more. And they need to patch that this summer if they want to sort of, push for a European place, because I think that they can. Like if you're in the Conference League, through winning a cup or through placing there in the Premier League, I do think that you deserve to be in there. And yeah, they're going to need to reinforce this summer. But I think they've had a very good season, personally.
It's strange again. Hopefully you can hear me, Matt. Thank you very, very much. Do appreciate that. Thank you. So on to the next club is Leeds United. And Matt, I will want to stick with you if that's okay. What a job Daniel Farke done in the end, right?
In the end, yes. I thought the start of the season, it was really ropes for him, I thought. And then he changed something, like I've mentioned, loads of times. And for a solid 10 to 12 games straight, he got some very good results, some big results. I don't think he lost many games at all. And I think that stretch of games probably saved him. And then towards the end of this season, it got a bit sort of looking what they were at the start of this season, where they just struggled to get results. They struggle to win games. They struggle to even get draws sometimes. And having looking on this season, I think that they'll be very happy because they've just come up from the championship, I believe, because it was Burnley, Leeds, and Sunderland. I think all came up. Or were Leeds in the Premier League before? I can't remember. No, I think it was those three. Yeah, so I think that they'll be quite happy with that. I think they should stick with Daniel Farke because I think he has done a good job. He is a manager who is not afraid to change up tactics mid-season, as we've just seen this season. And I do believe he's a good manager. He was Norwich manager and he was very, very good for Norwich. So I do think Leeds should keep him because I think he's now, I say developing. He's quite old for a manager in terms of development, but I do think he has developed into a Premier League manager in that he's not a yo-yo manager. I do think he's now at that level where he can stay in the Premier League with a team. He's frozen. Oh, there we go. Still on mute.
You got them in. Thank you. I couldn't hear everything you're saying, but for some reason the button keeps getting stuck. I'm going to leave it off mute, right? Anyone can make noise around me. It's not going to work. It's getting stuck. It's making me really annoyed. But I'm enjoying what you're saying. Everton 13th. Jack, come to you. There's a lot of calls from Everton fans for David Moyes to go. Believe it or not, that's interesting. I spoke to a lot of Everton fans ahead of our game and after our game, and every single one said to me, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. We've thrown it away. We bottled it. We want him gone. And that's interesting considering his connection to the club previously. Does that surprise you? And what do you make of the season overall, Jack?
Well, personally, I think the first 3 games, it was 2 wins and a draw. And then obviously they lost 4-1 to Newcastle. Then another 2 wins, another few losses. They couldn't really get that rhythm going, in all fairness. And in the last couple of games, it was just draws and losses, including to us on the final day. And obviously I think we spoke about it in the preview to the Everton game that he definitely lost the dressing room a little bit. A lot of players were not very happy with David Moyes being able to get this side to a different level. I mean, they were doing quite well towards the start, and obviously they started to drop off a little bit. Then you had the FA Cup where they lost to Pens on Sunderland, and it just started to decline a little bit more. The Bournemouth lost with a red card, the 1-0 loss to Man United, the 2-0 to Arsenal, and then all the other games in between, even the loss to West Ham, and they were fighting that relegation battle at that point as well as we were in April, and then obviously I lost to them. So it definitely was. I think all the fans were like, "How are we losing 2-1 to a team that is pretty much fighting to stay into the Premier League?" And obviously Spurs can say the same thing. We lost to Everton the second time round, but we did beat them the first time round. But will David Moyes go? Again, it's out of our hands. It's completely down to the board. But I think if the fans are calling for it, and if the players are not very happy with the way that he's playing, I can probably see him going. It just depends who they replace him with. Will they replace him with maybe, I don't know, possibly Glasner? Maybe at a push. I can't see a manager like Slot going there after managing Liverpool. You can't really see a manager like Maresca going there. You can't see that either. But it all depends. Obviously, I think we can point out that we were one of the first teams to beat them in their new stadium. But we can't take that away from them. It's a nice looking stadium. They've definitely had a massive revamp, and it's definitely something that they definitely needed. But yeah, I think David Moyes should go? I think if Everton really want to push for top table of the Premier League, something's going to have to change, and I think a manager is probably the start off with. You need someone with a completely different way of playing, and then you probably need to get some players in. They lost obviously a couple. They've obviously lost a couple of players. They've obviously brought in a few, and that's pretty much it for Everton. Really, there's not much more that you can really say. I think Beto will probably go. I think Illiman and Jai might go. You've still got Dwight McNeil. You've still got James Garner. Jack Grealish is obviously going back to Man City. What he's going to do now, no one really knows. Idrissa Gueye, depending on how well the World Cup turns out for him, he could be looking to move. Seamus Coleman's now finished and done. He's gone. James Tarkowski, I think he can do a lot better than Everton personally, and I think Jordan Pickford could easily do much better than Everton as well. But you've obviously got some of these players that are still around that want to be a one club player. But if you want to further your career and do the things that all the other players are doing, whether they care about it or not, you've always got to look for a move away from somewhere. But they're still in the Premier League. They came 13th with 49 points, equaling with Newcastle in 12th, just underneath by goal difference. For a team like that, I thought they've done quite well, even with their ups and downs. But I think in order to really get into the top side of the table, I think the fans will probably want to call for David Moyes to go, and if that's what it's got to be, then they definitely need to have a hard think about it. Oh,
he's gone. Should we move on to Newcastle?
Yeah, what do you think of Newcastle, Matt?
Right. I might be in the minority here, but I think they've had a shocking season. I think they have. I think that when you look at their season before, they were 5th. They were in the Champions League. They played Champions League football this season, and they finished 12th. They finished about 5 positions below their neighbourhood rivals in Sunderland. That is ridiculous when you consider Sunderland last season were in the Championship. Newcastle, had been in the Champions League. And yeah, I just think that Newcastle have been absolutely terrible, and I think Eddie Howe will be sacked. I think he will be sacked this summer. I don't know when, but I can't see how Eddie Howe can stay on after this season. It's been terrible.
I mean, from losing Isaac to bringing in Valtamada, who hasn't done that much.
Well, their signings haven't worked, and they spent a lot of money on their signings. Like Valtamada, I mean, he was brought in, to be this lanky type striker.
To be their next Isaac.
Yes, and he's nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. If anything, he reminds me of Darwin Núñez, in that he's tall, but he can't shoot for shit. Do you know what I mean?
At all. You can't take away with also another player that they brought in that completely threw their toys out the pram, trying to get out of Brentford, Wissa, just to get his move over there as well. Alanga. Now you've lost Anthony Gordon to Barcelona. Mental move.
What do you think about that?
That's a great move for the player.
I'll tell you what I think about it. Didn't realise he could speak that well of Spanish.
No, I didn't.
He's been doing his Duolingo.
He's been practicing Duolingo. He's been texting
apparently
Trent,
since he was 3. He's always wanted to go to Barcelona. And do you know what? I think Barcelona have made a massive overpay for Anthony Gordon since Newcastle bought Anthony Gordon. So that's how I've been seeing it everywhere. But yeah, you've still got people like Harvey Barnes, Jacob Ramsey. They bought in as well. Joe Willock, Jacob Murphy. Well, they haven't brought him in. There's obviously links that maybe Bruno Guimaraes could look for a move. They've now lost Kieran Trippier, who it was definitely rumoured that he was going to Wolves. Couldn't see why he'd want to go down the league, but he's probably, what is he now? He's 35. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if he's still got the legs for Premier League, like obviously with Coleman leaving for Everton now. But they've still got a lot of good players, and they just need to. I think they just definitely need another restructure. Well, from what I can see, they've got 6 goalkeepers, and they only use realistically 1. But yeah, in terms of games won, games lost, points earned, it's definitely been a shocking season. I think it definitely started since they drew to Wolves. Obviously, with PSV, losing to Aston Villa, losing to Liverpool heavily, losing to City heavily, losing to Brentford, and then obviously beating us. But a lot of teams were beating us by that time in February. And they obviously then beat Newcastle, lost again to Man City, and then it just sort of went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of a loss, and then finally won against Brighton, drew to Nottingham Forest, beat West Ham, and then lost to Fulham, which I know Barney in the comments would love me to say about that Fulham beating Newcastle on the final game of the season. But yeah,
Let's move on to them.
I can move on. We've been
Good
talking about them the whole
opportunity,
time. Oh no, Fulham is next. Fulham is next. Never mind. The opportunity has now arisen to
Segue.
speak about it.
Go for it, Jack. Yeah, it has. You led it on perfectly. So Fulham finished 11th with 52 points, level with Chelsea, but just behind because of the goal difference. But Fulham, you got me frustrated because they're 2 points off 7th. That's the way I look at it anyway. And I just always felt, didn't you, 1 or 2 results away from.
Yeah, they were. They were so close from Europe spots, but not enough at the end of the season. Look, in terms of wins, losses, draws throughout the whole season, pretty much just playing every weekend apart from the old FA Cup games, beating Stoke 2-1 and then losing to Southampton 1-0. They probably spied on them as well, Southampton. But apart from all jokes aside, well, Fulham did beat Middlesbrough, so clearly they looked at them as well as Southampton did. But all jokes aside, I personally think Fulham had a decent season for the team that they are. I think they definitely need a bit. I think Marco Silva, if he's going to go, it depends who you're getting afterwards. It all goes down to the manager that you get in if he goes. But you've got again, they've got some good players. Raul Jimenez is probably getting on a little bit. Muniz, very good player still. Emil Smith Rowe, Ryan Sessegnon, both Spurs and Arsenal working together. Never see that these days. I have high prospects for Joshua King, 100%, and Oscar Bob moving from City to there as well. I think he's going to be good there. Anthony Robinson is definitely someone there. Castangs, Bassi. They've got loads of good players. I just think if they're going to lose the manager, they've got to probably bring in some other prospects as well. And again, like most of the other teams in the Premier League, they should be definitely trying to raid some of the teams that have gone down this season to keep them into the Premier League. It just depends who they go with. But yeah, for who Fulham are, being just underneath 10th and almost getting into Europe, I wouldn't bat an eyelid that they wouldn't be generally quite happy with themselves, to be fair. I personally would if my team was finishing 11th, but we're finishing 17th. But yeah. Yeah, I think Fulham had a really good season. If they had one more
Barney
point,
says in the comments that we threw away Europe. Sorry to interrupt. He says here because what you're saying, that lack of consistent belief and silly results going out to Southampton, losing games we were expected to win. He goes on to say individual errors. Now the most major thing is that Marco Silva, the manager, he's handled himself. This situation is not ideal. We've got good players. Whoever manages us will inherit a good group. I think Silva's done well with them, I will add, but has he taken as far as you can get? I think he needs to part ways, even though he's been good this summer. It feels like an opportunity to kind of build on what he's done, to be fair. And Barney says we've had some really good results of being a stable Premier League club is still good. Barney being a regular listener to Scarfey Talks Premier League and a regular panelist as well, which is fantastic, regular guest. So doing them both. But Jack, thank you. You speak very well there.
That's all right.
On to Chelsea, West London. Matt, 10th place for them. We've spoken about them, so let's keep this incredibly short. We have already mentioned them. But Barney says there, had you offered me 11th, I'd have taken it. Well, you can't say the same about Chelsea, can you?
I'm so glad you gave me the opportunity to absolutely rinse this football club. Thank you. Right, let's just get into the start of the season, where they were in a title race. They were telling me, look, you're not great. Man City aren't great. The title race is wide open. We can win the league. And since that moment, it all went to shit for Chelsea Football Club. The bottom line is their ownership structure, they just buy kids. They just buy young players with little experience. their plan is to buy a young squad that they've got at the moment, and gradually they're going to get Premier League experience, which in theory is going to work. But you're not going to get Champions League football consistently doing that. Therefore, what experience are they getting or sort of developing other than Premier League experience? Like it's just madness to me. They spent £2 billion or near enough that, and they've managed to get one Champions League finish in 4 seasons of them, taking ownership of the football club, which I think is an absolute disaster because teams like Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United to a degree have all spent considerably less than £2 billion, even in bloody 10 years. And we've got consistently Champions League finishes. And I just think that Chelsea are going under the radar in terms of the amount of abuse that they're not getting. Not abuse, but criticism in that they're not getting, because this will now be their 5th, or practically they're going into their 5th season with this ownership, which with 5 years of Arteta, I had achieved 2 title races, 2 Champions League spots, and they are going to have 1 Champions League spot. And I just think that, what are they going to do this summer differently? Like, what are they actually going to do differently? Because how can you go from being in a title race to finishing 10th, below Brentford, Brighton, Sunderland, Bournemouth? Like, these teams, you shouldn't be finishing below them. You should be finishing above them because you're Chelsea Football Club. You're pride of London. And I think that this is a bit of a reality check for all the Chelsea fans when they were saying, we're champions of the world now because we won the Club World Cup. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but let's see what you do this season. Can you emulate, or not emulate that, but can you, challenge for a league consistently? Can you do that? You haven't done that for nearly 10 years. Yeah, literally for nearly 10 years. And they can't do that. And I gotta say, there's some players I want to call out: Cole Palmer, Caicedo, and I'm not going to call out Reece James because he's actually been pretty decent. But those 2 players, Cole Palmer and Caicedo, the not leadership, but the core of Chelsea Football Club at the moment, have been an absolute shambles this season. Caicedo, 15 yellow cards he has got for Chelsea this season. If we're going to include his country, he's got about 18. That's ridiculous. Like, this guy's apparently supposed to be the best DM in the world. He's nowhere near that. I'm sorry, Chelsea fans. You're deluded to think if he's anywhere near that. And the one player that they're giving absolute dog's abuse at because he wants to leave, which I don't blame him, to be honest, is Enzo Fernandez. This guy's been your best player alongside Reece James this season. Show some respect to Enzo Fernandez, who was basically the first major signing of this project, or whatever project this is. And he stuck it out for this long. He's been given a 10-year contract, but he's like, no, I want out. Like, what is this project to me? There is nothing here that tells me that this project is going anywhere. You're sacking managers left, right, centre. You're failing to consistently get Champions League football. Yeah, all right, we've gotten a couple of trophies, but what has that led us to? Nothing. That's not led us to consistent-wise. We're not doing anything consistently other than being consistently mid-table. And I think that Chelsea, again, need another major rebuild, because this rebuild that they've had hasn't worked. They need to change up their structure and their sort of philosophy of their ownership, like, vision, and sort of, focus on bringing in Premier League experienced players, not like 30, 35-year-old players, but players that have got good Premier League experience, that are good players. Morgan Rogers, for example, he's been in the Premier League for a couple of seasons now. He's a great player. We want him. Go get him. Go get him. He'd be a sensational player for Chelsea. Like there are so many players that Chelsea could easily get with the money that they have, with the money that they can splash, but they choose not to because this ownership, and I've told Chelsea fans in multiple spaces, in multiple YouTube channels, that your ownership don't care about your football club. All they care about is the money that they're going to receive. That is all they care about. That is why you're buying players like Esteval for a 30-40 million pounds, and you're going to eventually sell them on for 100 million pounds because your club wants to emulate Brighton, but just be a more expensive version of Brighton Football Club. That is essentially what Chelsea Football Club will be under this ownership, because they proved to me for 4 years that they don't care about this club anymore. Like, they don't care about success. They care about money, and that is all they care about. Mic drop. Harry, you're on mute.
Jack, can you hear me now?
I don't know why it's taking
You
so
hear me?
long to take you off of mute.
I don't know.
Yeah, we
Weird.
can now.
And I didn't
I'm
even
not
mute myself
understanding
then.
what's going on.
I didn't even mute myself then. So weird. Jack, can I come to you? I think there's a delay, but I'm just going to continue. Anyway, it's fine. Technical issues happen with a live podcast. Brentford, we've spoken about them when you spoke about Tottenham. They keep it very, very short. But what have you made of them?
Well, start of the season, winning 2 losses. Couple more losses in there. They had a pretty nice unbeaten run of 6. They started losing again. Another 4 games unbeaten. Then they lost. Another 7 games unbeaten. And they lost. Then they won. And they lost. And they drew. For a team like Brentford, I think it's been a pretty standard season for them. They just fell again.
It wasn't meant to
team that
be,
just
though,
fell
was
slightly
it?
short.
It wasn't meant to be for Brentford this season with the players that they sold. But it's credit to the manager, I suppose. I know they faded off at the end.
Yeah, as much as they sold the players that they had sold, and they've still managed to make a good thing out of a bad situation. Being just down on goal difference from getting a conference league spot just below Brighton. Fair play to him, I would say. Obviously, fair game to the guy who was underneath Thomas Frank and is now the manager of Brentford. I think he's done a quite cracking job with the team of players that he has, and even with losing those players, he's still got a lot of good players still in the squad. Especially now who is in the Brazil squad, Igor Thiago. He's been absolutely mental for them this season. So there's Reece Nelson. You've got Keane Lewis Potter, very, very good. He could definitely be the future. Obviously made the signing of Jordan Henderson back into the Prem. Damsgaard, just doing Damsgaard things. And I think there's nothing really bad you can say on it. And Kelleher from Liverpool, he's definitely been a massive part. He wanted regular football, and he's showing why he should have been playing regular football in the first place. So fair play to the manager, fair play to Brentford, and hopefully they can sort of mimic that next season, or if not, get that one space more upwards to get themselves a spot in European football next year. Who knows? But I think under this manager, I think they might be all right with a couple more signings in key places.
Okay. Jack, thank you very, very much. Hope you can hear me. I have not muted myself. Top 8 then to the left. The top 8 that finished at the end of last season. So we're an hour and 38 in. So I am conscious of time, and often say the top 6 get a lot of coverage when it comes to football media. And I think that's right. And as a top 6 fan myself, well, maybe not for much longer if we keep finishing 17th, but you get the point. Top 6 gets a lot of coverage. So we will cover them a little bit less. But there are some surprise teams in here, to be fair. We're trying to do about a minute and a bit per club now. Matt, I'll come to you. Brighton, I mean, weird season for them. They've been really strong in periods. We've had like 12 unbeaten, and they've gone sometimes nearly that without a win. So weird, but a positive. well, I was going to say positive end for Fabian Hertzler, but a positive 2026, I suppose. But what a weird way to get Europe, to lose 3-0 at home to Man United and find out you get Europe shortly after you end the game. I mean, it must be frustrating knowing you could have got more. Have you won?
Yeah, because I mean they're only 1 point behind Sunderland, so they could have got Europa League football if they beat Man United. But I think that they've had a good season. You know, they're back in the European leagues. I don't think they. I think they would have got destroyed in the Europa League personally. I think they have a
True.
good chance of going quite far in the Conference League. And it will be very interesting about how they recruit now. You know, will they sell their top players because they're known as a selling club because they're not exactly a big club, but they're now, you know, for the past 4 years now, 3, 4 years, they've had 2 seasons where they've got European football. And I'm just wondering whether they are going to try and keep their key players, like players like Carlos Baleba. He's been strongly linked to Man United, but Man United fans don't really want him apparently. So would you try and keep him around? Who knows? But overall, I think they've had a good season. Um, I don't. I wouldn't have expected them to get European football. I probably would have expected them to get around 10th, but in and around my prediction of where they probably ended up. So I think they've had a decent season personally. You know, I don't think that they can complain.
No, thank
Basically,
you. No, exactly that. And can I stick with you, Sunderland, because they snuck in to the Europa League place? I mean, they've had a really good season, haven't they? They faded a little bit, particularly at home, but they got it together right at the end when it really mattered with some key results. They deserve Europe, don't they, really?
I think Sunderland can be absolutely ecstatic with this season. They've just come in from the Championship. They had a really strong start to the season to a point where they took it to they what's the word when we played them they took the game to us and
They
yeah
did, yeah. I
and they
remember
were
you saying at
around
the
the
time.
yeah so they were around the top 4 spots then so yeah they did drop off, you know, around that time to around, you know, March, but they got it back together because they were around like 13th, 14th, and I was worried about could they slip down to a relegation fight. Not that,
There was talk. There was talk when that just a little
yeah,
bit, but there was a little few
not that I
conversations.
think they would have got relegated, but it would have been tight. But they managed to pull some results together and secure themselves European football. I think for the first ever time they've got European football, I believe. So they can look forward to that. It's Europa League football, so that's a big European
Huge.
league to
They need a.
step
I was going
into.
to say they need a squad, but they signed a lot. But I suppose it
Yeah.
also leads us to my next question: how well has Regis Priest done to gel the squad, and what they're looking like in the summer? Do you think, oh, it's worked well, we'll keep it the same? Or do you think European football, particularly the Europa League, we need to bring in a lot more players because you don't want to have too big of a squad like Forest have had in the past, where it doesn't gel, especially when you've got it to gel unexpectedly so quick.
So Areola and the Sunderland manager would be my close joint second for manager of the season. Because I thought that they've done splendidly. I think Sunderland should do everything possible to keep this manager because he clearly knows what he's doing. He's clearly a Premier League manager. And there will be a lot of suitors about for him because I can't remember a time where a manager has taken a championship club to a Premier League, but not only stay in the Premier League and not only get, you know, mid-table or above, but actually get into a European spot in the first season back in. Um, I can't remember who has done that. Maybe the Sheffield United potentially did that like 5, 6 years ago. But they could be very, very proud of their season. And I think for Sunderland, and it goes for Bournemouth as well, and maybe not so Brighton because they've been there, you know, more than once. But I think for Sunderland and for Bournemouth, they shouldn't take this season for granted. There's no guarantees that they're going to be up there next season because they're probably going to lose some key players. Like Krupi's probably going to go for Bournemouth. Coyote's no, he's for Brentford. But for Sunderland, can they keep hold of Enzo Lafy? Can they keep hold of their goalkeeper? Can they keep hold of some of their centre backs? Because so it will come down to how good of a summer that they can do. But if they have a good summer, I don't doubt that they can get top 10. Whether they get European football again, that remains to be seen. But if they have a good summer, I think that they can get top 10 again.
Okay, thank you very much. And Jack, I'll come back to you for Bournemouth in 6th. I mean, do you echo what Matt says there in terms of Iriola should be one of the contenders for manager of the season? Because he has been really good, to be fair. I think he's been, just incredible. Hence, look at where he's left Bournemouth. I mean, if Iriola had made Slot's quote, his comment about leaving Bournemouth in the place it deserves to be, leaving them in a great place, and he'd understand it. But it feels like the right message from the wrong messenger, if that makes sense. The complete wrong output, if you like, the wrong source. But with Bournemouth, though, in all seriousness, they've done incredibly well, haven't they? And I mean, wow, seismic for them, what they've secured for next season.
Honestly, if you tell me that Bournemouth are going to finish 6th this season, I would have bit your hand off. But that's exactly exactly 100% of what they've done. And yeah, fair play to Iriola, and fair play to all the players that were involved in that. They didn't have a very good start to the season. They were losing and drawing, and then they decided to after the win against Spurs, and then the knockout at the FA Cup, they decided to just carry on playing there, and they went on a massive unbeaten streak of every single game from January onwards, since that loss on pens to Newcastle. It's something that I definitely did not expect in the slightest. But no, fair play to Iriola. He is, apart from Slot, he has actually left Bournemouth in a very, very good place. It'll be exciting to see what they do next with players and with whatever manager gets in next time. I think Ryan's going to be quite dangerous. If they manage to keep Krupi, he's definitely going to be another dangerous player that's there. Same as Kluivert, same as Evan Nilsson. They've still got a lot of good midfielders. Marcus Tavernier, Alex Scott, heavily linked with a lot of other places outside of Bournemouth. But if they want to be fighting this place to stay in, obviously stay in the Europa League season the whole way through, they've got to hold on to players like that. They can't really be listening to noise. But again, even if they do lose players like Krupi, players like Alex Scott to any team that are going into them, they can just raid all the players.
Would you like Alex Scott as a Spurs fan? Because he's a Spurs fan as a boy.
He is a Spurs fan as a boy, and I think with the way that he plays, I think it could maybe make sense in a De Zerbi world. But look, we've still got another 18 days until the transfer window opens. I don't see anything with us being heavily linked with Alex Scott. But this game is a dangerous game, and transfers can happen at any point in time. So if we do go in for him, I don't see why he'd hesitate to say no, which I can just see why Bournemouth want us to pay the right price for him, and I think he's worth every penny, depending on how much they ask. But and obviously Krupi being linked with Arsenal and other teams as well. I think he's definitely a player that Bournemouth will want to keep their hands on. But again, if the deal's right, I'm sure the higher ups are going to take the deal. And we'll see what manager comes into Bournemouth to see if they can sort of rebuild that to make them more of a European fighting team than just a really good Premier League side as of at the moment. So but 100% credit to them, 100%. Done very well for themselves. They should all be proud of themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. And they got the top 5 to just left, and that's it. The 5 Champions League clubs. Thank you all for bearing with us. If you're still listening, Scarfey Talks Premier League, do appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new, and if you're listening via audio platform, drop us a follow and a 5-star review would be amazing. But any honest feedback as well, or you want to get in touch with your say? I mean, we want to hear it from you. 5 clubs to go. We're going to leave out Liverpool. Here's why. We talked about them for quite a huge part, 20 to 25 minutes earlier. We talked about Arne Slot. We went into lots of detail, which is very important. So do not think if you're just tuning in that we've missed out Liverpool. That is not the case. We actually just jumped the gun with that one. We talked all things Arne Slot up and beyond when it went to Liverpool. So we go to 4th with Aston Villa, and I'm actually going to talk about this one, which leaves us 3 remaining after. Let's mix it up a little bit. Aston Villa, I think, have had a really good season under Unai Emery. Very, very impressive. And whenever I think to myself, I think others will relate. I think, has Emery taken Villa as far as they can get? You kind of prove us wrong, really. And I know people go, what is the next step? Is it competing with the Premier League? Well, there may be no limit to that extent. But for Villa, it's been a huge season, hasn't it, Matt, as well? For European glory is one thing, but also to get Champions League football again. I mean, in the end, it's a perfect season for Villa, especially considering their start, isn't it? Which was dreadful. They were bottom at the start, Matt.
Yeah, so Aston Villa are look, they're now becoming a club where they're consistently getting European football. Maybe not, Champions League every season, but they're consistently getting some type of European football, and I think that's always crucial with teams like Aston Villa, because I think a club like them is probably potentially going to be a Brighton that will potentially start doing this. But with Aston Villa, I think that they have had a fantastic season. They've came 4th place. They've had a great season with Unai Emery, and they won the Europa League, which is Unai Emery's second league, because he always bloody wins the Europa League. Yeah, I think they can be very happy. I think that in the final that they played, I thought it was very convincing. Freiburg, I think it was, didn't look like they were touching them at all. Villa really took them to the sword, basically. And I think that they've got 19 wins this season in the Premier League. I think that's a great return when you consider Man United got 20 and Man City got 23. So they're not far off those two. So I think that Aston Villa could be there and thereabouts in the Champions League race again next season. Potentially title race, potentially, because I think that, they're probably going to lose Morgan Rogers, but their recruitment for the past couple of years has been pretty top. So I'd actually back Aston Villa to replace Rogers in a very effective way. Maybe not to the ability of a Rogers in terms of like-for-like ability, but I think that they'll have no problem replacing him because their recruitment has been top. And yeah, I could see them getting Champions League football again next season. Europa League minimum, but this season they could be very proud. 1 trophy, Champions League football. What more can you ask for? And also the amount of injuries they have had to a certain position in midfield. They lost their entire
cope with
core.
it. That's squad
with
planning, isn't
ACL.
it? And also, it's the fact
squad
they've dealt with
planning,
it as well.
And so credit to the recruitment team, because they were absolutely phenomenal with that. And credit to the manager as well, because he's found a way to deviate from his first choice midfield that he hasn't had for the majority of this season. And they've managed to get 4th place. So I think that next season they are going to be a very good team.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you, Matt. Do you mind if I stick with you? Because next up is Man United in 3rd under Michael Carrick. Got 3 teams to do, so try and do it in about 5
Man
minutes.
United. So congratulations to them, because they have won a trophy this season. They've won the assist record trophy. Yes, it's an individual award, but it's a trophy according to the fans. Pretty shameless from their fan base and from their football club. With the
Carrick's done well, though,
they
isn't he, to be
put out.
fair?
But yes, on Michael Carrick, I think that he's done a fantastic job. Whether he's the man to take them into next season, now obviously
Do you not think he is?
I
Oh,
don't
that's
know.
a big shout, Matt.
It well, it has
Ooh.
been confirmed that he is their manager for the next 3 years, I think it is. But I don't know. And the reason why I say this is
Really?
because I'm a manager in terms of Premier League. He's playing one game a week. He he's allowed a week of rest with his players. He's not had a huge squad because of the one game a week. So him having a larger squad, probably not more egos, but more players that are going to want game time. Um, how he deals with Bruno Fernandes, um, and how he deals with 3 games a week. Now, I say this because um, when Arteta had Champions League football for the first time, I was bricking it. I was like, how are we gonna, stay competing in the league as well as competing in the Champions League, or having a good season in the Champions League? But with Michael Carrick, I think that it comes down to recruitment because I think he's a very good manager. Because he showed that this season. I mean, he came to our ground and just beat us. Just beat us. He beat Man City as well, so he can beat the big teams. How is he going to do with 3 games a week? How is he going to do with players not being able to rest for 5 days? How is he going to do with not having training sessions for 5 days? He's going to have 1 or 2 training sessions maximum per week because of the fact that you're playing 3 games a week. You're pretty much after your weekend game, you'll have one day. Well, you won't even have one day rest because on a Monday you're going to be on a flight. You know, you're not going to have training sessions. So I'm just going to wonder how is he going to cope with that. But it will be interesting, and I think that he will get Manchester United next season, top 7. I think he'll get them top 7. I don't want to say he's going to get them Champions League football because I think that's a really pressured goal to set him as
He's surpassed every goal so far, I'd
yes,
argue.
only been a Premier League manager for 6 months. So I kind of think that setting that bar that high is just unfair. So I think that he would do very well to get top 7 next season. I think that Man United fans would actually be happy for him because I think again, what Man United fans need to do with Michael Carrick is look at how we treated Arteta and how our ownership and how our board treated Arteta in his first few seasons is that you need to give him trust. You need to let him make mistakes, but you need to back him because there is no. They have a very similar situation with Carrick that we had with Arteta. I mean that he knows the club. He knows the club. Also, Carrick is a Premier League legend. He knows the Premier League. He is, I believe, he's in the Hall of Fame in the Premier League. I might be wrong, to be fair, but he's a Premier League legend. He's won multiple Premier Leagues. He's won multiple Champions Leagues. He's won multiple cups. So he is an icon of the Premier League, and I think that will help Manchester United attract some good top quality players because they're going to look up to um, because they're going to look up to a manager like Michael Carrick, who was who was a legend in the Premier League, and I think that that club need to back him personally. That they need to learn from what they did with Ruben Amorim, learn from what they did um, with Ten Hag, learn from what they did with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They need to back him. They need to give him time, and they need to back him with the resources he deserves.
Okay, I agree with that. Thank you very, very much. You're right. And interesting, you're apprehensive, a little bit worried about Michael Carrick long term. We'll have to see. I think he's done a good job so far, though. Jack, Man City. I mean, what do you make of the season? Because not what they wanted in terms of the Premier League, but still, there's a trophy for Pep to end with, and Pep's departure, of course. Oh, you're on mute now. Hold that. Not just me.
Didn't press the button. That's why. Mine's fine. I didn't actually press the button that time. But no, that's still well. He's left on sort of a high and a low, 2 trophies, but obviously not the one that he wanted to have on his final hoorah of the Premier League. But no, he's Pep Guardiola. Everyone knows he's definitely a Premier League managerial legend as it stands. And the stuff that he's done this season with another rebuild, as many Semenyo, amazing signing, taking them off Bournemouth. Ryan Cherky, not more you can say about him. He's technically a mental. Mark Gahey and Donnarumma, Art Nuri this year, and bring a lot of youngsters in and playing them properly, especially Rhiners as well. But I think the Premier League will miss a manager like Pep Guardiola. I think everyone is definitely waiting for the minute of when he signs for another club, so everyone sees where he's going to go next. But yeah, it just after the last couple of seasons where they've been finishing first, it just wasn't like that towards the end for him. Obviously, getting knocked out of the Champions League to Real Madrid, and then still beating Arsenal, beating Liverpool. They tried and they tried and they tried, but just towards the end, they just sort of started slipping with points. They were slipping with points towards the middle of the season as well, but especially with their loss to Man United in January. But wasn't obviously wasn't the last hoorah that Pep wanted to have. But I think every club will definitely say that Pep is one of the greatest to grace the Premier League and definitely to grace Man City. And I'll miss his banter. I'll miss him running around acting like an absolute
20
loony.
trophies in 10 years. Wow.
20 trophies in 10 years. That is double the amount that he's been there. It's an amazing stat for him. Loads of Premier Leagues, Champions League, FA Cups, Carabao Cups under his belt.
Is Jiggy's worried about the 115 charges? Is he left now before anything comes of that, or do you think it's completely unrelated?
I'm not being funny. I don't think he cares anymore. I think that's down to them. Obviously, did he have a part to play in it? Maybe, definitely, possibly.
I just thinking, does he know something that we don't, and he's gone? I don't know. I don't think so personally, but just throw it out there.
I think there's a possibility of yes and no for that. Yes, he definitely knows that he's part of it and he wants to get out of there as quick as possible. No, because it's ultimately down to mainly the board of doing all their financial stuff and everything else like that. So
he
it's not
did say though that if they were guilty,
he'd always leave.
Yeah, he was going to leave, and I think.
But he changed his mind, didn't he? Like the weather.
Huh. Yeah, but I honestly think that the club have told him that look, we are going to be found guilty, but we're just going to tell you because of what you've done for this football club. So that's sort of the least that we can do and the most, yeah.
That's what you think's happened.
Yeah, that is what I think has happened because
sounds logical to be fair.
Yeah, because I don't understand why he would leave, because if this weren't true, he probably would stay until he's won the Premier League or the Champions League, and then he would probably leave Man City, because I think
he's a type of leave on a high manager, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's the type of manager who would want to leave on a Carabao Cup and an FA Cup double. It's not something that I can see Pep Guardiola wanting to do, but I think he's done that because the club have told him that they're going to be found guilty.
Interesting.
And also, he probably wants to avoid the headlines, because if he's still the manager when this comes out, he's going to be caught in the headlines. I think the fact that he's announced that he's left, I don't think he should be in the headlines. But personally, yeah.
Okay. And Matt, to end Arsenal then, we've spoken, of course, about the trophy parade and the Champions League final, but in a couple of minutes, if you want to wrap it up by talking about Arsenal and the season as a whole, ups and downs, doubters, haters, all of that, and overcoming it to be crowned Premier League champions in the end.
I'll just try and summarize it. But at the start of the season, if you ask any Arsenal fan, that we would be in 2 finals and we'd win the Premier League, and one of those finals would be the Champions League final, I don't think any Arsenal fan would say nah. Like, I think we all would have bitten your hand off for that. We all would have wanted to be a part of that. And at the start of the season, it didn't feel like we were going to be challenging for the league, or at least be favourites for it, because you had Liverpool, you had Man City, and it kind of felt that how we ended last season was potentially going to be how this season was going to be played. But I think it all changed when we drew against Man City. I felt that game changed the way that we viewed this season could be, in that it looks like we could be back to challenging for that Premier League, and the consistency that we put out throughout the season was incredible. I mean, we went through a stage of games in a row without them having a shot on target, which I still can't believe to this day that we managed to have like 3 or 4 games in a row where no team had a shot on target, against us. And it got a bit scrappy, I think. Well, not scrappy, but we sort of started to become a bit complacent, I think, around February time or around January time. When we played Man United at home was when we started to get a little bit sloppy, I thought, because we had just slapped Aston Villa 4-1, and we beat a few more teams, but I think we got a bit overcompetent. That's not a word. And I think we got a bit complacent. And then that happened, and we sort of rode that storm. And then another moment I can think of was when we beat Everton 2-0. That game, I thought, was the game that I believed that we were going to win the league, because
it fitted him, wasn't
the
it?
way that game happened, from minute 1 to minute 88 was 0-0. It was neck and neck, that game. That game was neck and neck, and Mikel Arteta just brought on a kid, and he saved us. He got us that win, and that win was so important because Man City dropped points to West Ham, I believe it was. So that game was huge in the title race, because I think heading into the international break, we went in, I think, 9 points clear or 8 points clear. It was absolutely huge. And we could have gone in 6 points, 5 points. So I think that it was absolutely massive. And that game was when I really started to believe that, we're going to win this league. And then obviously we got to the Man City game and we lost. And just before Declan Rice mouthed what he said, I thought that we're going to bottle this, because it just felt that we just needed to get something at that ground to basically win the league. Because I
It
thought,
felt that way.
yeah, we sort of needed to not lose. Even a draw would have been lovely. But we lost. But when Declan Rice mouthed what he did, something inside of me was like, he's right. It's not done. It's not done, because it's now neck and neck now. We can still win this in our own way, but we've got to be perfect.
Yeah.
And we was.
That's the thing. Rice has always been big on mentality. You have
Yeah.
someone like to come in,
And
whether it's
next
the
season,
camera or not, it helps, doesn't it, when you say that type of thing around the players.
What he showed there was pure leadership and pure mentality of he's not giving up. And I think he instilled that in the team on that night. And I'll be very interested to see in the little behind the scenes documentary that will be released in the next couple of weeks, I think. What was said in the dressing room after that game, but also after that Wolves game, because that Wolves game was panic stations. That was panic station, because that was just before we played you guys at your ground, I believe. So it was kind of panic stations there. And we went on a 5-game win streak after that Man City game, and we basically were perfect. We were perfect for the last 5 games, and we had to be. But I mean, it kind of just told two tales of a story for this season in terms of the mentality for Man City and for Arsenal. With all of the headlines of, we've got the bottle job mentality, that type of stuff. And Man City have got the champions mentality. It kind of felt like it was actually the opposite way round for this season, because last 5 games we won all 5. City won 2, and it kind of felt it had sort of switched ways a bit, because after the City game, it was literally tied on points, and they had a better goal difference. To be fair to them, they had also scored more goals, and they also had a better head-to-head record. So it was kind of in their hands, essentially. But yeah, a great end to the Premier League season. I think it was brilliant that the relegation fight went all the way to the end. The European spots went all the way to the end. The Premier League title nearly did. It nearly did, but it went to game week 37. But yeah, so happy with the team. So proud of it. Even with the Champions League final loss, I'm so proud of the players, because that game, just really quickly, we went to 120 minutes and penalties, and some of the players, they were literally playing with one leg, but they continue to play. Hincapié and Gabriel, those 2 players are absolute warriors. They look like they were playing on one leg. They had so many injuries. It looked like that they were playing with so many injuries throughout that game, but they spurred on. They carried on. They fought until the last minute, and it wasn't to be. But we'll be back next season, I think.
Great way of looking at it, and yeah, congratulations again for Arsenal winning the Premier League title, and it's big all round. And by the way, forgot to mention earlier, Palace, their trophy race been put off until after the World Cup, likely because several players are already going away on World Cup duties. If you wonder, Palace have had no trophy parade, that's why. So, but then it might ruin it a little bit.
I think that might be quite good for Crystal Palace, because there won't be any real rush to have that parade in that. Like,
there won't be, but Glasner should be there, shouldn't he? And surely Glasner's not going to be part of it, or I don't know if he will be.
He's got to be part of it, because he's the manager that won it. He's got to be part of it.
If you think about it, because the new manager would have started. Doesn't feel right, surely.
Yeah, but the new manager
he should be there, but I don't think he'll be.
I don't think it would be right if the new manager is part of the trophy.
No, he can't. He can't be. No, he can't.
I wouldn't be surprised if Glasner formally announces after the parade that he's obviously not with Crystal Palace anymore. I think that they'll delay that announcement until after the parade, and then he would then join his club that he's agreed to.
Or he stands at the trophy parade and goes, I'm staying one more year or something.
If he does that, fair play to him.
One more year.
Genuinely, that has the potential, and that would be absolutely incredible.
Do not write it off.
And I would love that. I would genuinely love that.
No manager talk from the likes of Fabrizio Romano, as far as I know anyway, around Palace. Interesting. I was thinking that.
Say that again, sorry?
No, sorry. I haven't seen much manager talk around Crystal Palace. Is there a reason for it?
I thought Areola was going to go to Crystal Palace. That's what I got told, is that Areola was set to go to Crystal Palace. But I think this Liverpool thing has obviously swayed everything. But yeah, I don't know who Crystal Palace go and get if they don't continue with Glasner.
Surely they don't.
Because
they should.
We're in the Europa League now, so they can acquire some, top quality managers, not world class managers, but some top quality managers.
Arnie Slot.
Well, yeah, top of the list, eh? But if you're Glasner, don't you want to manage in the Europa League? Because he thought you were going to this season, that didn't. Just a thought, one more year. Come on.
But you could say that about Areola with Bournemouth. They're in the Europa League for the first ever time, and he's off to Liverpool, it looks like.
Yeah, that's a definite no that he comes back, because they've already got a new manager. Weird how they commit. Well, mind you, it's worked out well for both, isn't it? Announcing it early. So what do I know? I don't think it didn't work for Klopp and Liverpool, in my view, but it worked in this scenario. But that is an incredibly long episode. We will end there. Thank you so much. It won't ever be this long again. It's just once a year we do an end of season review, and we cover absolutely everything. pretty much 2 hours 15. Goodness me, on the back of 2 podcasts. Jack, you deserve a lot of credit. I mean, I don't know about you, this host, that was fun but difficult back to back because that was an hour a bit as well. So thank you so much for your commitment. Where can people follow you on the socials?
They can follow me on TikTok at Jack of All Spurs at the bottom here. I am now going to try and not crash out tomorrow morning when I have to wake up at 5:45 after how long this has been. But no,
Blame me.
I would.
Harry,
Same.
that blasted
perfectly
host waffling on.
Yeah, why do you talk so much and you leave all the time? Make
Yeah,
them.
shut up.
What are you
Yeah.
doing? No. Honestly, from 7 o'clock to now, been amazing having these chats about the last bit of Spurs, last bit of the Premier League, and we just got to see what the future holds now. And obviously, Thursday we'll do our little. You'll do a little individual award thing. I'll happily be part of that, and it's going to be a very nice Thursday. But yeah,
be good.
Just TikTok for now. Jack of All Spurs. Got a couple of funny West Ham clips. Didn't decide to do anything for the PSG Arsenal game. Maybe because I wasn't really. I was not. To be fair, I wasn't really in it on that day. To be fair, I mean, could I do a late one? I could. I'd have to figure something out. Don't know if I want to be too mean to Matt.
You could watch it again if you wanted to.
Watch the game?
Yeah.
I mean, I can watch the game. I think the only thing I want to watch is something go into Rosette. What went into Rosette? Gabriel's penalty. Yeah, I think that's where I want to be. But
it hasn't landed yet. It hasn't landed yet.
The thing is, as if that was on target, I think it gets saved anyway.
It does.
So I think the goalkeeper was going the right way and was going to reach it.
Yeah, the goalkeeper went the right way anyway. But I think with enough power.
Forget the thunderstorm might be Gabriel's the ball landing, causing shockwaves.
Possibly.
But Jack, thank you.
A bit of hailstorms because the football was white. Okay, I'm done now. I'm done.
No, it's all right.
It's
all good. Jack, thank you very much. So listen, I had different ideas following the content of for my own socials and for the main Spurs podcast, Scarfey Spurs Talk, after that game, and I had 5 ideas in my head, and I fired pretty much every single one. They're coming from different angles: the professional, sensible point of view, the serious, silly point of view, the creative point. I covered absolutely everything, and it was really. But all jokes aside, really good Champions League final. It's a shame that it was behind a paywall. But Matt, where can people follow you on the socials? Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure being on for this season. It's been brilliant, and I can't wait for next season. Are you going to do like transfer streams?
One episode every single week throughout the summer, even during the World Cup, which would be interesting because there's just going to be ongoing transfer news. It'll quieten down in the World Cup, but the next episode I'll reveal to you, I haven't spoken to any of you, and I'll reveal also to the listeners now. The next one will be what I call an award show. It's the same for the Spurs podcast. We're going to cover both, but for this, it's going to be a Premier League award show. Of course, you find out player of the season, this goal of the month, but it's just in our opinion, right? Not what the Premier League give, what we would give, and also going to find a few different awards that currently isn't given. We're going to be a little bit creative with our ideas, so that'll be interesting. Hopefully, get a few guests on for that.
That's brilliant, and I hope to be part of that. On Twitter, I am AFC Matex with 2 X's on Twitter. Should be the one with 8K followers.
Great stuff, and I would say I'm liking the new look to the profile, and while it looks good, it's such a shame it has to look so glamorous from an Arsenal winning point of view, but it does look good. Fresh little rebrand, so go check that out. Absolutely, it is good to be fair. But that wraps us up very nicely. Thank you to everyone that's listened. It's a long one, but we appreciate it as always. Thank you for listening to this episode.